They told her she didn't belong in first class. They tore her ticket, called her a fraud, and humiliated her in front of strangers. But within minutes, the woman they mocked would reveal a truth that would change aviation forever. The terminal buzzed with the usual chaos of travel. Rolling luggage, last-minute announcements, impatient sighs echoing off the glass. At gate C12, Maya Henderson stood quietly in line. Simple blazer, messenger bag. No designer logos, no entourage. Just calm, controlled confidence. To everyone else, she looked like any other business traveler. But appearances can lie. Maya stepped forward to hand over her boarding pass. The gate agent, Brenda Collins, barely glanced up before frowning. "Ma'am, this ticket says first class. Are you sure this is yours?" Maya blinked, polite, but firm. "Yes, that's my name printed on it." Brenda's tone sharpened. "First-class passengers board first. Economy boards later. Please step aside." "I am in first class." Passengers nearby started whispering. Someone snickered. Another pulled out a phone. Brenda scanned the pass again, muttering, "System says this ticket was purchased using corporate credentials. That can't be right." Maya's patience thinned, but her voice stayed even. "It was purchased under my account." Brenda crossed her arms. "Ma'am, don't make this harder. We've had scams like this before. People printing fake passes. Security." Gasps rippled through the line. A uniformed supervisor, Steve Morrison, approached. "What's going on?" Brenda pointed. "She's trying to board with a forged ticket." Morrison scanned Maya from head to toe. Her dark skin, the worn laptop bag, the quiet confidence, mistaken for arrogance. "Ma'am, do you have ID?" Maya opened her wallet. "Of course." He snatched the ID, squinting, then scoffed. "This says Maya Henderson. The system shows the ticket purchased by... Wait, that can't be right." Maya held his gaze. "Oh, it's right." Brenda whispered loudly, "Probably using someone else's card." Phones were raised, cameras clicked. A viral moment was being born, but no one knew who they were recording. Inside the aircraft, first-class passengers were already seated. Business suits, pearls, whispers. The kind of silence that judges before understanding. When Maya finally stepped aboard, escorted by Morrison, all eyes turned. Brenda followed, voice sharp as glass. "Seat 2A, you can't sit there." Maya calmly adjusted her bag. "That is my seat." Brenda snatched the boarding pass, tore it in half, and hissed, "Not anymore." The sound of paper ripping cut through the cabin like thunder. A passenger laughed. Another muttered, "Finally, someone doing their job." Maya's hands trembled, not from fear, from fury held in check. "You just destroyed company property." Brenda rolled her eyes. "Company property, please. Sit in coach, ma'am. Let's not make a scene." A young woman across the aisle began live streaming. "Y'all, this flight attendant just tore up a lady's first-class ticket. This is wild." Within minutes, thousands of viewers tuned in. Maya stayed silent. Her expression icy calm, the kind of stillness before a storm. Captain Kane appeared from the cockpit, his authority heavy with assumption. "What's the problem here?" Brenda quickly recited her version. "Fraudulent boarding attempt, Captain. She's causing a disturbance." Kane sighed, irritated. "Ma'am, step off the plane. We'll sort this out." Maya's voice stayed soft. "No, I will not step off this aircraft because of your employees' prejudice." That single word, prejudice, hung in the air like lightning, waiting to strike. Kane folded his arms. "Big word. You can explain it to security." Then, the unthinkable. Brenda reached out and slapped Maya across the face. The sound cracked through the cabin like gunshot. Gasps, screams, phones lifted higher. Maya didn't move. She just slowly turned her head back, eyes blazing. "You just made the biggest mistake of your career." Security rushed down the aisle. Morrison barked orders. "Get her off this plane." Passengers whispered, "She must have done something." Others smirked. A few just stared. But one passenger, Jessica Winters, kept her live stream steady. Her viewers climbed past 20,000. Comments flooded. "Why they hitting her? That's assault. This gonna blow up." Maya raised her hand calmly. "Officer, I'll go, but first, please record this interaction for your report." She faced Brenda. "I want your full name, employee ID, and supervisor's contact." Brenda smirked. "You'll get nothing." "Oh, I already have everything I need." She held up her phone, camera still rolling, face swelling slightly where she'd been struck. "You are live on 20,000 screens right now." Brenda froze. Morrison paled. Even Captain Kane's confidence cracked. In the jet bridge, police and TSA officers tried to diffuse tension. Maya stood tall, hands steady. "I will be filing formal complaints with corporate, the FAA, and the Department of Transportation." Morrison tried damage control. "Ma'am, let's not escalate. We can refund your ticket, upgrade you later." "Refund?" she interrupted. "You think money fixes humiliation?" He stammered. "Look, we can—" Maya's phone buzzed. She glanced down, then smiled faintly. "You'll want to hear this." She pressed speaker. A man's voice came through, measured, corporate, nervous. "Miss Henderson, we've been informed of an incident on Flight 447. Are you safe?" Morrison frowned. "Wait, you called her?" Maya nodded. "That's my communications director." The officer blinked. "Communications director for who?" Maya looked each of them in the eye. "For me. I'm the CEO of this airline." For 3 full seconds, no one breathed. Then chaos. Morrison stuttered. "CEO?" Brenda's knees buckled. Captain Kane whispered, "Oh my God." The TSA officer's radio crackled. Confirming identity, Maya Henderson, Chief Executive Officer, American Airlines. Phones exploded with notifications. Jessica's live stream viewer count tripled. On screen, the comments turned into digital fire. "The CEO? She owns the plane? They slapped their own boss." Maya let the silence burn. Then she spoke softly, but her words cut deeper than any scream. "You judged me because I didn't look like what you expect success to look like. And now, you'll all get to see what happens when people like me have to fight twice as hard to sit where we already belong." Back in the cabin, whispers turned into apologies. The same passengers who'd mocked her now stared in horror. Jessica's live feed surged past 50,000 viewers. Maya stepped back onto the plane, this time escorted not by security, but by officers making sure she felt safe.
The once arrogant Brenda trembled by the galley. Morrison stood stiff, pale, sweating. Maya turned to face the passengers, every camera trained on her. "Ladies and gentlemen, a few minutes ago, I was told I didn't belong here. I was insulted, assaulted, and humiliated. But now you'll all get to see what happens when truth walks into a lie." Her tone wasn't angry anymore. It was colder, sharper, the calm of a storm that already knows it's won. She set her phone on record, angled toward the crowd. "Everyone watching this isn't about revenge. It's about accountability. What happened here happens to people every day who don't have power, who can't defend themselves."
But today, you'll see what justice looks like when power finally has a voice. Maya dialed a number. "James Richardson?" A man's voice answered instantly. "Maya, thank God you're okay. The board is on emergency call. CNN's already asking questions." Maya looked around the cabin. "James, put me on speaker. I want them all to hear." Passengers sat frozen. Brenda sobbed quietly. Morrison's hands shook. Maya straightened her blazer. "James, I'll be addressing the company shortly, but first, I'm going to make sure everyone here understands the cost of their choices." She turned off speaker, locked eyes with Brenda. "You wanted to see my boarding pass? Here it is." She pulled out her ID badge, the gold-plated CEO credential, and set it gently on the seatback tray. Then she looked into Jessica's camera. "My name is Maya Henderson. And this is what discrimination looks like when you think no one's watching." The cabin went utterly silent. Outside, a storm rolled over the airport. Inside, a different kind of storm was just beginning.
The cabin fell into a stunned silence. Every passenger, every phone camera, every whisper, frozen in disbelief. The woman who had been mocked, humiliated, slapped, was now standing tall, calm, and terrifyingly composed. Her name? Maya Henderson. The woman everyone thought was a fraud was the owner of the plane. The flight attendant, Rebecca, blinked as if reality had glitched. The arrogance drained from her face. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. It was as though every ounce of superiority had suddenly evaporated. "You own the plane?" she stammered, her voice trembling. Maya's voice was calm, almost too calm. "Yes," she said softly, "and you just assaulted your employer." The words sliced through the air like thunder. Gasps spread through the cabin. Phones that had been recording for entertainment were now recording history. People who had laughed moments ago now looked away, ashamed. Rebecca stumbled backward. I didn't know. I thought you were—" "You thought I was what?" Maya's tone sharpened, but she didn't raise her voice. Her poise was more powerful than any scream could ever be. Someone from the back whispered, "She's serious. She's Maya Henderson, the CEO of American Airlines." And just like that, the entire cabin flipped. Passengers who had ignored her, who had judged her by the color of her skin and the style of her clothes, now scrambled to offer apologies. "Ma'am, I'm so sorry. Ma'am, we didn't know." But Maya didn't even look at them. Her focus was on the flight attendant who had dared to humiliate her. Rebecca's lip quivered. "Please, Miss Henderson, I swear, it was a misunderstanding." "Exactly," Maya said quietly. "You thought." She leaned closer, her words measured, deliberate. "You didn't ask. You didn't verify. You didn't see me. You just assumed." A hush fell again. Even the engine seemed quieter, as if the plane itself was listening. Maya slowly sat back in her seat, pulled out her phone, and made a call. "David," she said evenly, I'm on Flight 403 to Dallas. There's been an incident. I need HR and legal at the gate when we land." The moment she said HR and legal, Rebecca's knees almost gave out. "Please, Miss Henderson, I swear, it was a misunderstanding." A misunderstanding built on prejudice, and you just turned it into assault. Her tone wasn't cruel, it was heartbreakingly disappointed, because she knew this wasn't about her alone. It was about every person who had ever been treated like less than they are because someone thought they knew who they were. A few minutes later, the captain's voice broke the silence. "Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be landing in approximately 20 minutes. Please remain seated." It was the longest 20 minutes of Rebecca's life. Every second felt like a countdown to judgment. Her mind replayed everything, the slap, the words, the laughter. She was so sure, so confident in her authority, and now that authority was turning into evidence against her. The other flight attendants avoided her eyes. One whispered, "You're done, Becky. You're absolutely done." Rebecca didn't reply. She couldn't. Her heart was pounding so loud it drowned out everything else. Meanwhile, Maya sat silently, staring out the window. The clouds drifted by, soft and peaceful, a sharp contrast to the chaos inside. Her reflection in the glass looked calm, but inside she was shaking. Not from fear, from sadness. She had worked her whole life to reach this point. To be respected not as a black woman in power, but simply as a leader. Yet here she was, still fighting to be seen. Her father's voice echoed in her memory. "Never let them define your worth, Maya. The higher you rise, the more they'll test you." She smiled faintly. "You're right, Dad."
When the plane finally landed, the tension was suffocating. No one stood up. No one moved. Every passenger waited to see what would happen next. As the seatbelt sign dinged off, two men in suits entered the cabin. HR and legal from the corporate office, just as Maya had requested. They approached her seat with quiet deference. "Ms. Henderson, are you all right?" She nodded. "I'm fine." But she isn't. Her eyes flicked toward Rebecca. The men turned to the trembling flight attendant. "Rebecca Collins," one of them asked. "We need to speak with you privately." Rebecca's lips trembled. "Please, I'm sorry." Maya stood slowly. The entire plane's eyes followed her. Her posture, her presence, unshakable. She said, "Apologize." Rebecca blinked. I am, ma'am. I'm so sorry." "But not to me," Maya said, her voice suddenly filled with quiet fire. "To them." She turned and gestured to the crowd, the mocking, filming, and cheering crowd. "To everyone you taught that it's okay to treat someone as less than human because of what they look like." Tears streamed down Rebecca's face. "I'm sorry. I was wrong. I shouldn't have." But Maya raised her hand. Words mean nothing without change. She turned to HR. "Suspend her immediately and start a mandatory diversity and ethics training for all flight staff, effective tomorrow." The HR manager nodded. "Yes, ma'am." The passengers watched in awe. Some of them quietly put their phones down, ashamed they had ever recorded her pain like entertainment. As Maya walked down the aisle, something remarkable happened. A young black girl, maybe 12 years old, stood up and whispered, "You're amazing." Maya stopped. Her heart softened instantly. She knelt and smiled. "No, sweetheart. I'm just someone who didn't stay silent." The girl nodded, eyes wide with admiration. And that's when Maya realized maybe this moment wasn't about humiliation at all. Maybe it was about empowerment. Maybe the pain she endured had just become someone else's permission to stand tall.
Outside the plane, reporters were already gathering. The story had spread. Passengers had uploaded clips online, and within minutes, it had gone viral. Black woman slapped by flight attendant. Turns out she owns the airline. That headline was everywhere. But Maya didn't smile at the attention. She didn't crave the spotlight. She just wanted the world to learn, to finally see. Because this wasn't just a viral story. It was a mirror, a reflection of everything society still needed to confront. And yet, as she walked toward her car, a faint smile crossed her lips. Because deep down, she knew this was just the beginning. Justice wasn't finished yet.
The video had been online for less than an hour, but it had already set the internet on fire. Millions of views, thousands of comments, hashtags like "I stand with Maya" and "She owns the plane" were trending across every platform. But while the world was cheering, Maya wasn't celebrating. She sat alone in her office, high above the Dallas skyline, staring out the window at a city wrapped in sunset. The glass walls glowed gold, yet her expression was heavy. Her assistant entered quietly. "Ma'am, CNN, BBC, and The Guardian are all requesting interviews. They want your statement." Maya sighed. Not yet. Because for her, this wasn't a publicity stunt. This was personal. And the next step had to mean something. She turned to her team, gathered around the long oak table. "Everyone wants a headline," she said, "but we're not giving them gossip. We're giving them change." The room fell silent. Her voice was calm, but every syllable carried weight. The next morning, American Airlines released a statement that shook the entire aviation industry. "We do not tolerate discrimination in any form. Effective immediately, the airline will launch a global inclusion reform under the direct leadership of CEO Maya Henderson." News anchors across the country repeated her name with awe. The woman who had been humiliated in first class had just rewritten the company's future. But even as the world applauded, not everyone was happy. Behind closed doors, some executives whispered, "She's going too far. She's turning this into a race issue. She's making us look bad." Maya heard them, every word. And instead of getting angry, she smiled. Because she had spent years preparing for this. Every obstacle, every insult, every boardroom whisper had built her resilience. Now, she was unbreakable. A week later, she called an emergency staff meeting. Every department head, every flight supervisor, every manager. As she stood on stage in the headquarters auditorium, hundreds of employees watched in silence. She didn't speak from a teleprompter. She spoke from her heart. "Last week," she began, "one of our own humiliated a passenger, not because of a mistake, not because of policy, but because of bias." A murmur rippled through the crowd. "That passenger was me." Gasps. Even those who hadn't known the full story felt the impact like a lightning strike. Maya held up a hand. "But this isn't about me. It's about us. Because when one person on this team acts with prejudice, it stains all of us." She paused long enough for the weight to sink in. "I don't want another Maya Henderson to have to reveal her power just to be respected. I want every passenger, every employee, every human being to be treated with dignity from the moment they walk through our doors." The crowd fell completely silent. Then she continued. "Starting today, every flight attendant, pilot, and manager will undergo intensive cultural empathy training. We'll listen, we'll learn, and we'll rebuild our values, not from policy, but from humanity." A few employees nodded. Others looked down, uncomfortable. But Maya didn't care about comfort. She cared about change. That evening, as the news broke about the reform initiative, Rebecca sat in her apartment watching it all unfold.
Her career was over. But worse than that, her reflection had changed. For the first time, she saw what Maya saw, a person who had let bias guide her without ever realizing it. She couldn't sleep. The guilt was heavier than any punishment HR could give. The next morning, she showed up at headquarters, uninvited. Security stopped her, but she asked them to let her speak to Maya directly. When Maya's assistant entered her office and said, "Rebecca Collins is here," Maya didn't react. She simply nodded. "Send her in." Rebecca stepped in, her eyes red and tired. She looked smaller now, not in height, but in pride. "I know I don't deserve this," she said quietly, "but I needed to say it face to face." Maya said nothing, letting her continue. "I was wrong. I thought I knew who you were. I let my assumptions become actions, and I can't take that back. But I want to do something, anything, to make it right." For a long moment, Maya said nothing. Then she gestured to the seat across from her. "Sit down." Rebecca hesitated, then obeyed. Maya leaned forward. What you did was unforgivable in the moment. But forgiveness isn't about pretending it didn't happen. It's about what you do next." Rebecca nodded, tears welling up. "You want to make it right?" Maya continued. "Join the reform program. Train others. Tell your story. Teach them what happens when you let prejudice take control." Rebecca looked stunned. "You'd let me do that?" Maya smiled faintly. "I believe in accountability, but I also believe in redemption." That moment, two women, opposite sides of power, became the quiet heart of the entire story. Not a viral clip, not a headline, but transformation. Months passed. The Henderson reform became a national model. Airlines across the country adopted her program. Rebecca, once the villain, now stood in classrooms teaching new recruits about empathy, respect, and humility. And Maya? She kept leading, not from the clouds, but from the ground, among the people she fought for. 1 year later, she returned to the same airport, same terminal, same airline. But this time, the atmosphere felt different. Every passenger was greeted warmly. Every employee smiled with genuine care. As she passed through the boarding gate, a young attendant stopped her. "Miss Henderson," she said nervously, "it's an honor to meet you. Your story, it changed why I wanted to work here." Maya smiled, "Sweetheart, that means more than you know." As she walked down the jet bridge, the hum of engines filled her ears. But this time, it didn't sound like noise. It sounded like progress. Because change, she had learned, doesn't happen when people fear consequences. It happens when they find understanding. When the plane took off, she closed her eyes and whispered a quiet prayer. Not of anger, not of pride, but of gratitude. For the pain that became purpose, for the hate that turned into healing, and for the reminder that sometimes, even at 30,000 feet, the real journey is within. As the clouds parted, sunlight filled the cabin, warm, golden, and endless. And for the first time since that awful day, Maya smiled, not because she had won, but because the world had learned. Moral of the story? Respect doesn't come from titles or uniforms. It comes from humanity. Because the moment you forget someone's worth, you risk losing your own.